Change begins from within. As easy as it is to look outside of ourselves and want the world to change, the truth is, it never will if we remain the same. This podcast was created for changemakers like you who want more love and connection in your community. Today, you are going to hear stories that will inspire you and also challenge you to be the change. We are going to go deep, my friend. So take a deep breath and settle in. My name is Emilia Tamburini. Welcome to the Circle of Change. Hi, friend. Happy summer to you. I hope that you're soaking up all the energy of this time of year and using it to restore your reserves. I have been spending a lot of time outside camping and having profound visits with communities on the island and with friends. It's been a mix of heartbreak and heart mending. What I can say for sure is that nature is a central player and healing force, and that's just one reason I'm so excited about this conversation today. With us in Circle is Wayne Foster, who is a good friend of mine and a remarkable human being. Today, we dive into the teachings of his recently published book, Being Connected, which shares dozens of remarkable stories of creative intelligence in nature, from ants to elephants, bees to giraffes, and then it explores how humans can learn and apply some of these talents in nature to improve our lives. The lessons he articulates are so needed in our world, especially as we work on reconciling with Indigenous communities who understand what is in this book on a cellular level. For us settlers who may have a different connection with nature and all living things, this book provides a beautiful path for us to embrace this natural law. In this conversation, you'll hear about the life-saving role that meditation played in Wayne's winding life journey. He shares a story of sand that beautifully illustrates nature's balance and intelligence, and other stories in Being Connected that showcase our deep connection to nature. Wayne talks a little bit more about his practice of meditation and how it supported him to bring this book to life. And I think if you're interested at all in meditation, this is a really profound story about the role that meditation can play in our lives. And he ends with the story about an elephant that will open your heart to our interconnectedness. Wayne is an amazing human being, and he has spent 25 years in the learning and development space, bringing and building programs for over 100 major businesses and government institutions in North America. He has published a number of works in healthcare and has a particular interest in natural healthcare, contributing management and consulting services to organizations offering alternative approaches to health. He meditates every day and spends his time in nature where he lives on Vancouver Island. In the show notes, you will find a link to Wayne's book, Being Connected, and he is offering it at a special rate for a limited time. So head over to that link and pick up your copy of this beautifully written and illustrated keepsake. All right, here we go. Welcome to this episode of Circle of Change, my friend. Welcome, Wayne, to the Circle of Change. For the listener that's joining us today, Wayne and I, we first met as neighbors in the same building. I'm still in this building, but Wayne has moved on. From the very first time we met, I knew that there was something special about you. Certainly, I got to experience so much of your kindness and joy, which, to be honest, and I've not said this to you, but you're pretty perceptive, so I'm sure you picked up on it. But I was a bit skeptical at first, like not trusting. What I have known and what I know about you now is that, yeah, you're so in your integrity and you have this beautiful joy and love that emanates from you. And it really comes through this book that we'll start to explore a bit today. But just to say that I think you're such a beautiful soul, and I'm so glad you're here with us today.
It's very kind words. Very kind words. I feel the same about you. You're a great soul.
Thank you. So, we are going to talk about Wayne's book, but really explore him as well and his life. And we'll do that through Circle. To start, I want to settle us in with a poem. So, Wayne, feel free if you'd like to close your eyes, and the listener as well, just to come here into this present moment and sit in circle to really hear the story that you need to hear today and take in the wisdom. So, the poem I'm going to read is by Mary Oliver, and it is called The Gardener. Have I lived enough? Have I loved enough? Have I considered right action enough? Have I come to any conclusion? Have I experienced happiness with sufficient gratitude? Have I endured loneliness with grace? I say this, or perhaps I'm just thinking it. Actually, I probably think too much. Then I step out into the garden, where the gardener, who is said to be a simple man, is tending his children, the roses. That's our poem to start us off today. These poems come to me, and I thought that was really an interesting one. But for me, it really hones in on that interconnectedness with nature, which I think is what, in many ways, your book is all about.
Beautiful. I was a literature major in university, and poetry to me is a way of expressing your being in a very pure form. So that was a nice poem.
Mm, thank you. Wayne, we always start off with this question, who are you? I think it's a beautiful question that gets at something deeper that's within us that wants to be shared. And so I'll leave that question with you to start us off today. Who are you, Wayne?
In the 1990s, someone said, we're not human doings, we're human beings. And I often thought, in my own personal life, I feel like all the experiences I've gone through in my life were a way to bring out what's inside. We take on many roles. Sometimes I think I'm a property developer, or a writer, or a video maker, or a book, or like a person that wrote the book, or a relationship consultant for companies. So you take on these different roles. And I think everything in my personal life that's come together from the experiences of all those different roles has got me to a sense of understanding that each of us is really, and myself, speaking about my own personal experience, but each of us is really a person that expresses himself in different ways all the time and evolves. So I feel like I'm a different person than when I was younger. I'm a different person than yesterday, particularly in the studies of nature I've done recently. It's really opened my eyes to the sense that we are all connected, and that myself and yourself are really one in many ways. So who am I? I think I'm all those things in many ways.
Beautiful. I love that. I've gotten to know little bits of your story along the way. I love this book. And to be honest, I'm really awaiting your autobiography because I think that will be really fascinating. I know you've worked with Deepak Chopra, you've got a deep history in meditation and beautiful service to healthcare, and you've contributed in so many ways. And I'm always curious about people's journeys and how they get to where they are right now. And so, can you share with us a bit about this life journey and what brought you to here, to writing this particular book, Being Connected?
I remember when I got out of high school. When you get out of high school, you're kind of thinking, what do you want to do with your life? And I don't think anyone really knows, but they send you to a guidance counselor, and the person says, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? Unless you're some kind of magical person, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I took over this little store as a franchise person. After 2 years, at 20 years old, I had high blood pressure. I had high blood pressure at 20 years old. The doctor said to me, listen, you got two choices. You cut back on your job, which was like a 10-hour, 12-hour day job, or you learn to meditate. And I thought, wow, I don't want to quit my job. And maybe I'll try to cut back a little bit, but I want to learn this meditation thing. So I went to learn to meditate. And the first session I had, it was in 1980. So it was over 40 years ago. The first session I had, I came out and I thought, I didn't really experience too much. And I was driving along the Rideau Canal in Ottawa. And the Rideau Canal in Ottawa is this beautiful roadway that follows that comes from the airport down into the center of the city, and it's used by heads of state and people to welcome them to the capital of Canada. It's a gorgeous roadway with trees, and it was winter. It was about 20 or 30 below, like freezing cold. And as I was driving along the canal, there was two people skating down the canal. It becomes a skating rink in the winter, and they were skating along. And I remember looking out my window. We stopped at a traffic light. I was looking out my window and I was thinking, wow, that is incredibly beautiful. Deep silence. You couldn't hear anything. And you're just watching these two people magically moving around each other as they go down the canal. And I thought that was incredible. Just a real deep, heartwarming moment, which I hadn't experienced for a long time. So then I looked up and the traffic had gone, and there was about 20 cars behind me. So what I found was, from that first experience of meditating, I really felt a deep connection with myself. And I didn't even know during practice. But afterwards, I could see it in how I approached people and what I was appreciating around me. And I haven't missed in 40 years. I haven't missed a day of meditation in 40 years. And I think it's been something that's part of my life. Now, the thing that, we all go through, I'm sure all of you go through too, everyone that's listening goes through. I'm like a AAA personality. I go through fits and starts of trying new things and jumping into things. So those moments of going like that have really been, even in those ups and downs of our lives, which I don't think we can ever get rid of. We're all going to have ups and downs. I felt a little bit of smoothness that's kind of kept me going. So, I've taken on the role of doing like that, franchising a store when I was younger. Then I went to university after that. And then I did some public relations where I worked with Deepak Chopra and some others. And then I taught meditation for a few years. I started getting into business consulting, and I got these great gigs in business consulting. Obviously, they didn't know I wasn't qualified. But anyway, I did this great business consulting jobs and working with banks. And then I got a job to consult to the pharmaceutical industry, the entire pharmaceutical industry, the 40 or 50 companies in Canada. And my job was to write their code of conduct. So I thought, that's a great job for someone that meditates and has sort of a conscience, to write the code of conduct for the pharmaceutical industry. So I've had these kind of cool little things in my life. And just a few years ago, I decided to start writing a book about nature, particularly after watching all the divisions that are happening in our society and feeling that we're all connected. I think someone needed to tell that story. So that's my journey.
That is beautiful. And I learned a few more things about you, which I'm really grateful for. But thanks for pulling the threads together to get to here. And I think that'll continue to expand as we go through this. So this book is really about our connection, our interconnectedness with nature. I work a lot in Indigenous community, and the folks that I get to work with, this wisdom is in their bones. They don't need science to prove that we're all interconnected. But for many, many of us, it's not wired in there. And this book, I think, through stories and pictures and science and just like the heart in it, really does a beautiful job at illustrating, like, it's impossible to ignore this connection. So in your words, like, how are people connected with nature? And I know you had a beautiful story in there about an elephant and a ranch herder, but feel free to take this where you want.
I started writing this book by researching, and I read this article on this person named Alexander von Humboldt. And I don't know, you know that there's a street near us named Humboldt. There's a street in every city named Humboldt. There's a town of Humboldt. There's sports teams. There's universities. I never even thought who that Humboldt person was. And the article said that this great explorer felt that everything in the world is connected. And he wrote a book about the connectedness of the world. And he's the one that founded the Humboldt Current, Humboldt Dolphin, I think it's called. There's like a zillion things named after him. And he was an amazing person at the time, because this was the time of Jefferson was in the White House, and slavery and that kind of thing was predominant. And he went in, and he was invited to go speak to the President of the United States, to Thomas Jefferson. And he went in and he said, we're all connected, and we should abolish slavery, things like that, which were unusual at that time. But Jefferson agreed with him. There was a sense that things were in the world connected. So then, kind of fast forward to Watching a lot of these BBC shows about nature with David Attenborough and Brian Cox, and that you see that there's so many examples in the natural world about how things are connected. It just stirred my heart. I'll tell you one short story. I think one of the ones that kind of really opened my eyes to the interconnectedness of this entire planet. The Amazon rainforest is one of our treasured areas in the world. It's full of tremendous rainfall. Like the rainfall washes all the phosphorus out of the soil. So it's kind of a threat of its own goodness of being a rainforest, of losing all its nutrients. So the only way it keeps surviving is by the Amazon in Africa, halfway around the world. The sand from the Sahara gets pulled up high into the atmosphere, and then it goes out on atmospheric currents. And we're talking about tons and tons of sand. And what happens is, as it gets across the ocean, it starts to sprinkle down, and it feeds all the plankton in the ocean with nutrients like phosphorus and other ones. And then it keeps going, and then it sprinkles all over the Amazon rainforest. And the amount of phosphorus that gets lost is equivalent to the amount of sand that gets brought over from the Sahara. So it kind of balances each other out. And that's kind of the principle of nature, is balance. So if we were to, mankind is always trying to fix things, like get in and fix it. If we were going to try and fix that, we'd have to load up, I think, 80 transport barges, like those huge ocean liner barges, with 104,000 truckloads of sand, get it to the Sahara, and then somehow sprinkle it evenly across get it to the Amazon, and then sprinkle it throughout the Amazon. Nature does it effortlessly. Our planet is a marvel. This book was digging into all those different things like that are just incredible.
I'm so glad that is the story you chose to share because that story blew my mind when I read it. I was like, and it so perfectly illustrates something that we can't even fathom if we tried to think about it, like you said, like, oh, so yeah, I just love that. It's so powerful, the intelligence of nature.
Yeah, it is really intelligent.
So that's nature connecting with nature, but are we part of that? Like, are people connected as well?
Yeah, we're completely part of nature. There's a great quote by Dylan Thomas that says, "The force that through the green fuse drives the flower drives my green age." It's a powerful quote because it sort of indicates that force of nature, that sense of being, which is the title of my book, Being Connected. It's like the sense of being fuses everything in the world. As people, we're naturally connected. If you go to a theater and you're watching a live performance in the theater and you're with hundreds of people, they've studied the audience and they found that the breathing and the heart rates of the audience starts to synchronize naturally. Or if you're a pilot and a co-pilot, you're trying to land in an airport, the brain waves of the pilot and co-pilot start to synchronize. Brainwave activity measured with the EEG performance. They start to synchronize, and you see that the pilot and co-pilot naturally, without even trying, synchronize. That sense of synchrony, I think, is what we need more of in the world. And that's kind of my thing about meditation, is that getting deep within ourselves, we feel that sense of wholeness and fullness, and that gets spread into those around us. So we're all connected, and we're connected with nature. The whole sense of human nature and then nature is we're not two things, but we're one. And the other part of that is, if we were to think about how we could improve that relationship, I think it's getting back more to ourselves and being more natural and being able to make a better contribution to nature around us.
That's beautiful. I want to go dive more into that piece as well. But I'm thinking about, this term forest bathing, and it's kind of trendy these days. I know it's been around for a long time from ancient cultures. But is that part of it? Like, is that what we're doing when we're forest bathing? We're physically connecting with nature in some way. Like, can you explain that and tell us more about this practice?
Yeah, forest bathing is a great thing. I mean, you and I both, Emily, live near a forest, and I go out there every week. And I love getting in there because as soon as I start to get into the forest, I could feel the silence and integrity of the forest somehow. And I think it kind of replenishes ourselves. Anything time we can spend in nature, connecting with nature, is profound. I was walking through this forest out near us and I took a picture. I felt this kind of warmth and energy. And I took a picture. I turned around and took a picture of the mist coming off the trees. And I posted it on Facebook. And people freaked out. There was hundreds of shares. because in the picture you could see about 20 faces. Like the mist created these faces, right? So, just by accident, right? But it was kind of a magical feeling of being in the forest, and that picture seemed to capture it.
That's so amazing. Do you really think it was by accident?
No, I don't. I don't think it was by accident, but I probably have to just say that, right?
Yeah, as we do.
Nothing's by accident.
This podcast is really about helping people to be the change. And you've brought up meditation a number of times. And certainly I have used that as a tool for myself to really be able to stay grounded in something deeper than what might be going on in my head, but to get to some other place so that I can live from my heart and wisdom that is beyond what's in my brain. So, and I know meditation has been such a strong part of your life, and you have this beautiful practice. So, what is your experience with meditation? How do you think it relates to connection?
So I get up in the morning and I meditate first thing early. I practice transcendental meditation. It's a type of meditation. And I get up early in the morning and I practice. So during the time of writing the book, I was so excited about writing the book that I would get up at 3:30 or 4 every day, and I'd meditate, and then I would go as long as the energy would go, which would usually be a few hours because you get a kind of deep rest with meditation. And I would go till maybe noon, and then I would run out of steam. I kind of exhausted all the fill up that I got from meditation. And then if I wrote in the afternoon, it was just gibberish. Like the next day, I'd have to erase the whole thing and start again. So I knew that I only had that few hours of inspiration. And then in the evening, I would meditate in the evening around 5 or so. And then I get another hour. But that was about it. So, I would get about, 6 hours a day in writing that was creative. But certainly meditating brought me to more of a connection of myself so that I could pull the ideas from within. So the Being Connected book is really about exploring all the connectedness throughout nature and throughout mankind, like the connectedness of bees and squirrels and trees. And it's amazing the stories that are out there. And somehow I don't think it was ever brought together as to one collection, but this book is a collection of all those stories about how everything is connected. And then each chapter ends with the human connection. Like, what is that? What are we learning from that? How does that connect with us as people? Certainly, I could never have written this book without meditating. That was the inspiration of being able to at least, it's like filling up the tank of gas in the morning and then you go as far as you can, right? It was kind of like that. I'm sure you have the experience when you meditate too. You could only go a certain distance and you kind of run out of gas and you got to fill up again. So that's the experience of meditating.
What is happening during meditation? What are we connecting with, or are we connecting with something? I'm just curious to hear your perception of what's going on there and how it allows you to tap into that creative energy.
Well, I'm really only familiar with one type, right, which is the TM technique. But it's like that experience I mentioned at the beginning where you don't really feel like anything's happened. But there's some way it uses a mantra. There's some way that during the practice it becomes effortless, kind of like diving off a diving board. You step up on the edge of the board and you just start the practice and you kind of just let go and gravity pulls you in. It's like that with the mantra and the technique. It's never a force or concentration technique. Because I think that concentrating, like staring at a candle or something may work for some people, but it would seem to keep the brain active. And in the process of TM anyway, what you do is you just kind of allow things to go, allow nature to take its course. And that course is transcending. And at some moments, during the initial days of practice, you have experiences of deep, deep silence, and you kind of feel like that transcending. You're diving into that pool of energy. But it doesn't happen every time. The way I look at meditation is more like a washing machine. You go in and turn on the machine and clean everything out. And then in the day you feel that freshness and from that process. So nice experiences sometimes. Sometimes you're in the washing machine.
I love that. I'm going to think about it very differently now. Oh, so good. Also think about, oh yeah, what am I putting in the washing machine? Like,
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right.
what are your hopes for this book? How do you think reading this book is going to change people or help people see the world differently?
I'm hoping that the book becomes a documentary because I created 2 videos with people out in Europe. I think it visually tells the story that goes with the words of the book. The book is really kind of a script in some ways. So I'm trying to see if I can get that into a documentary. I'm hoping that the people that pick up the book have the same experiences you have that you said, if you don't mind me referring back to you, because you're kind of a connected, sensitive person. And I think people that are sensitive to the idea that we're connected would probably enjoy the book. Like the little story that you mentioned of the rancher and the elephant, you know. Do you want me to tell that story?
Sure.
It's kind of a cool little story. There's dozens of stories like this. But so this rancher in Africa is taking his camels through the area around the village, and they went out deep into the forested area. And then what they did by accident was they startled a group of elephants. And the matriarch, the mother elephant, is always the one that's sort of in charge. So she's protecting the young. So she charges at the rancher, right? So then the next day, the camels kind of wander back into the village and there's no rancher. You're thinking, what happened to the poor rancher? So they send out a search party first thing in the morning. And the search party goes out and scours around and they find it. The rancher is propped up under a tree with the elephant towering over him. So they think, oh my gosh, he's been attacked by the elephant, you know. So they fire some warning shots in the air and the elephant scurries off. And the rancher says, I'm really glad you didn't shoot the elephant because the elephant had knocked me down and broken my leg and felt incredible empathy and compassion. I could see it in the elephant's eyes. And what he did was he picked me up and carried me over to a tree and propped me up and then touched me with his trunk all night, just gently touched me with his trunk. And then he scared off other animals that came by. So he was kind of protecting him until the search party arrived. So species around us are much more sensitive than we think. I think that sense of connection, you know, the forest bathing, spending time in nature, will help to bridge that sense that we really are one planet and we have to treat the planet better, you know. The one thing I didn't do in the book, I didn't go into climate change. I didn't go into, you know, heavily or pollution or things like that because it's really easy to shift into that and get away from that sort of magical message of the connection. But it's clear that we need to treat our world better.
Oh, that is such a touching story. Thank you for speaking it out loud. What came up for me was yes, it's about tending to nature and also tending to each other because there's so much divisiveness, as you said at the beginning. And we can harm people with our words and our actions. But what would it look like if we harmed somebody that we then tended to them afterwards? Like we allowed it to draw us closer versus keep us separate.
That's a great idea. That's a great way to think about how we should, you know, people that do harm, how they should get penance is by going and tending to the people they harmed.
Mm.
It's a good thought. It's a good thought. Very clever. You could rewrite the system.
Well, I work in restorative justice, and that's essentially what we're doing there is we're allowing people that make offenses to tend to the harm that they have caused. And it really is such a beautiful healing experience, but we can all learn from that. It takes a tremendous courage to be able to step in that way.
I think whatever you do, Emily, you're going to make a huge contribution in this world. You already have made a huge contribution in this world. Even this podcast series, man, listening to quite a few of them, and it's an important contribution. So I'm really glad that you and I are connected. You know, for me doing the book and you doing this.
Me too. It's such a natural connection.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
collaboration. It really feels like that. And thank you.
yeah.
So, speaking of collaboration, the proceeds of your book are going to a really special organization. And I want to let you speak to that a little bit because it really gives a certain energy to this book, knowing that the proceeds are going to support this cause on actually a deeper level.
Yeah, so you know I'm kind of interested in meditation. So some years ago, David Lynch, the director, and his CEO founded the David Lynch Foundation, which is a charitable organization in the US, and there's a Canadian branch as well. And what they do is they raise donations and then fund programs for inner city youth to learn meditation or people that are suffering from PTSD. And now they've got a program called Heal the Healers, which is for hospital workers, which are traumatically under stress. And they've had huge uptake. You know, hundreds and hundreds of hospital workers are now involved. Dozens and dozens of hospitals taking them up on it and getting great results. I think that it's a good cause. And Bob Roth, who runs the organization, is a good friend. He hardly doesn't do it for pay. He does it for love. It's a 4-star Navigator charity, which I don't know if you know about charities, but most charities, they have all these administration costs and all this stuff, and then 10%, 20% gets dropped into the program. This one's like 90% in the program. It's a very highly regarded charity. I hate to throw that out there for people that are donating to charities, but there's a lot of administration costs in there. So anyway, it's a good cause, and they've done tremendous things. And on their website, David Lynch Foundation, the stories are just remarkable, heartwarming stories. So it's a good cause. I really thought, let's put the proceeds into that.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And we'll make sure to put the link to that organization in the show notes so people can go and check it out as well. And we'll definitely put the link to your book there as well. There's a beautiful trailer that you sent me, and I hope that's accessible to folks.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's just stunning. All right, Wayne, this has been amazing. And I know on our walks, we could talk and talk and talk for a long time. And I want to bring us to a close here today. So this podcast is really about helping people to be the change in the world. And I'm touched by this book that gives us more hope and inspiration to do that. But when you think about what it means to be the change, what comes up for you?
The most important thing we can do is take care of ourselves and make sure that we are in a place where we can help change others. And I think the words "be the change" are fantastic words. That's what it means to me.
Beautiful. Thanks, Wayne. I am so appreciative of you being here with us today. For people that are listening, the book is called Being Connected, Finding Yourself in the Beauty of Nature. And it's poetic, it is visually stunning, and it really is life-changing. So I encourage you to seek out this book. Just like Wayne, the book is gentle, it's intriguing, and it's full of light. So thanks, Wayne, for being here with us and gifting us this beautiful treasure.
Yeah, thank you for doing all you're doing. Very important.
I'm now passing the talking piece to you. If you feel called to put your voice in the circle, please head to humconsulting.ca/podcast and share your story there. I cannot wait to hear what has come up for you as you have listened to what has been shared here today. I wish you love and joy beyond your wildest imagination. Thank you so much for being here in the Circle of Change. I also want to express my gratitude to the following peeps. Circle of Change is recorded on the ʷəŋən territories, and I am so grateful to live on this land. Our opening and closing music was created by the talented E-Roll Beats. You can find his creations at erollbeats.com. And special thanks to my coach, Mary Chan of Organized Sound Productions, for bringing this podcast to life. Until next time, ciao.